Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of NB Basket, part 2 of this week's show. Before we continue any further, as always, thanks go out to Fish Bum Outfitters, Carrot Sticks Rods, Southern Yankee Baits, War Dog Lures, Northern Michigan Outfitters, Hooked on Canadian Angling, and most importantly, my wife and my son. All the support from these companies and from my family allow me to do what I do on a weekly basis. We're about halfway through our tournament season here in New Brunswick. As far as the New Brunswick Sport Fishing Association series goes, 4 events behind us, 3 more regular season events ahead of us, and our championship following that. So, pretty much right in the middle, and luckily what I'm about to discuss isn't something we encounter often on our tournament series, but it is still something you see occasionally when you're out fun fishing. Once in a blue moon, you'll encounter it with tournament anglers, but luckily it's not too often. But at the same time, it's still a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. Boat ramp etiquette. It, to me, doesn't seem that complicated when you have a lineup of boats, and I don't care if it's all a lineup of bass boats or if you're using a public boat launch on a day that you're out fun fishing or pre-fishing for an event, and there's pleasure boats and bass boats, anything in between, lined up to use that ramp. This applies to all of us. This is something that is across the board. If you're using public boat launches to launch a personal watercraft of any sort, you know, a pleasure boat, a fishing boat, jet skis, doesn't matter. Excuse me. For some reason, some people feel entitled to tie up that boat launch for an excessive period of time. I understand not everybody's abilities backing up a boat trailer are equal. I drive truck for a living. So when I line up to a boat launch and I'm backing a boat in, well, maybe I'm a little faster in reverse than some other people are. I know we have other guys in our series that, you know, have similar occupations, so they're the same way. You know, and I'm not talking about the speed of somebody backing up, because like I said, I know not everybody's ability in a vehicle is equal. What I'm talking about is preparing to launch that boat or to launch those jet skis. Jet skis aren't normally an issue because you're not carrying, you know, coolers full of food, or you're not carrying fishing rods and extra equipment on a jet ski. Normally it's, you know, you and the jet ski, so it's pretty simple. But if you're lining up to a boat launch, or you pull up to the ramp and there's half a dozen boats that are they're getting ready to unload, get ready before it's your turn. Unstrap the back. Yes, I've witnessed what will happen if you unstrap the front too early. If you pop that hook off the front, you take all fastenings off, depending on your trailer, your boat, how much it weighs, how slippery your bunks are. Here, Canada Day, July 1st, I witnessed a man dump a fairly large deep hull tracker right off the ramp, right off his trailer onto the ramp. Luckily, it was an aluminum hull and it didn't sustain too much damage. So, but unstrap the back. If you have coolers or fishing gear, anything at all that's in your truck that has to go into your trailer or into your boat, get it done when you're 4, 5, 6 vehicles back. You know, don't wait until, oh, it's my turn. Okay, let's back right down to the water's edge, and then we're going to take 12 fishing rods, 2 tackle bags, 2 sets of rain gear, a cooler full of food, 2 jackets, oh, and don't forget the cell phones and the cell phone chargers and the cameras and everything else. and put it in the tray or put it in the boat all in, that all at that time. Have a little respect. It comes down to so much of what we do on the water comes down to respect. And those of you who are tournament anglers can probably agree with me that there are times on the water where we see very little respect from other types of watercraft. Jet skis burning a spot you're fishing, power boats going by full steam, rolling big wakes in on top of you. That's stuff that we can't control. But that doesn't mean that we have to be disrespectful, I guess is the easiest way to put it, to anybody else at the launch. Get your boat ready. Get down to the water's edge. I know you're anxious to get going. And, especially if it's tournament day, you're always standing there, shooting the breeze with your buddies. Everybody's, excited to get going. Like, it's a busy time. It's a social event, but there's a lot to do. A lot of the guys you don't see every week. You see them every couple of weeks for tournaments or whatever the case may be. And yeah, it's great to stand around and shoot the breeze. Get your boat in the water. Get your gear ready. Then stand around and talk. It won't hurt. Trust me. The earlier you're there, you may feel like, oh man, it's so early to get up. You want that extra 10 minutes sleep. Well, sometimes sacrificing that extra 10 minutes sleep gets you to the boat launch, and all of a sudden you don't feel like you're in a panic getting your boat in the water. It just comes down to a little bit of common sense, a little bit of respect. And with any luck at all, if we show it to others, eventually it catches on and it comes back around to us. So just take a few minutes, have your stuff ready. And when you get to the water's edge, the last thing you should have to do is unhook that front strap and have whoever's driving your truck back you into the water. Literally should take under a minute. When it's your turn, unless it's a really tricky launch or something a little out of the ordinary. If it's a standard, highly used, easy public boat launch, from the time it's your turn till your boat is in the water should take less than a minute. So just have a little respect for others, use a little common sense. Like I said, luckily with tournament anglers, this isn't something we see all that often, but every now and then, it still happens. And like I said, when it does happen, it is a bit of a pet peeve of mine, so I figured I'd take a few minutes to mention it. Aside from that, it's hopefully if you have a little bit of frustration at the boat launch, that's the biggest frustration you have all day. But moving on from that, or I'll ramble about my own pet peeve for the next 6 minutes. Getting ready for a warm weather tournament. I've touched on this before, looking after your own health on the water, looking after yourself. Well, in the dead of summer, it's more important than it is almost any other time. And you have to be prepared for so much. Like this weekend coming up, our tournament, Perth Andover, it's calling for a very warm day. I believe the last time I looked at the forecast, it was saying 28 degrees Celsius. You have to excuse me, I can't. I can't think of the Fahrenheit conversion on that right now, but it's pretty warm. So, but it's also calling for a good possibility of rain. So not only do you have to be prepared to keep yourself hydrated, stay dry, or to stay cool, you have to be prepared to stay dry. And a lot of people think, oh, well, it's summertime. If I get wet, I get wet. Well, if I think back more years than I care to remember, and my tournament partner Jason can vouch for this, because he was there to witness it, you can get hypothermia in the summer. A lot of people think, oh, it's summer, if I get wet, no big deal. You get wet, and you're wet for a prolonged period of time in the summer, you can still get hypothermia. When Jason and I were kids, we were part of the Army Cadet movement, and we were on a summer course, and we got caught out in the middle of the river on a canoe trip, and maybe Jason could correct me on this number, but if memory serves, I believe we had 13 cadets, myself included, go down with hypothermia in the middle of that rainstorm. It was a really eye-opening experience. Definitely not a pleasant one. So, just because it's summer and it's going to be hot doesn't mean strange things can't happen. When your body temperature starts to drop because you're soaked to the bone, doesn't matter whether it's the dead of winter or the heat of summer, hypothermia can still set in, and hypothermia will do some strange things to your body and can be a very serious situation. So be aware. Always check your weather forecasts and always be prepared, because the weather forecasters, well, let's just say I went into the wrong line of work, because I should have been a weather forecaster. It's the only job I know you can screw up that bad that often and not get fired. So just be aware of what's approaching, be aware and be prepared for just about anything, just for your own safety and for your own peace of mind. Always have your rain gear. Have a change of clothes stashed in a dry bag. Get a big Ziploc type bag, and dry pair of pants, dry shirt. It doesn't have to be pretty, and it may not always be you that needs it. Be there to help somebody else. Somebody else could get in a mess. Somebody else could take a swim first thing in the morning. I've seen guys right out of the gate loading or dumping their boats in the water, and all of a sudden they realize they've spun a prop. Or they have problems and they have to jump in and do something in the water, and then they've got no change of clothes. So, big Ziploc bag tucked into a storage compartment, and it could go a long way to make your day, or possibly somebody else's day, a whole lot better. So, I know it sounds sometimes like, there's so much preparation involved and you're almost overcautious. Well, speaking from experience, sometimes being overcautious is the better route, because if you're not cautious enough, it can make for a long, miserable day. I have forgot my rain gear in a spring tournament before, and got rather wet because I looked at the wrong day's weather forecast. May of 2015. The only thing that kept me a little warmer is we were catching good fish. I kept moving, but it was a cold, wet day. Luckily, it was a cold, wet day that I came away with a trophy and a check, but it was still pretty uncomfortable nonetheless. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you again for listening to me rant and ramble for another 15-minute segment for a half hour this week. I really do appreciate each and every one of you that takes the time to listen. Any questions, comments, or anything at all, message our Facebook page, NB Bassin. Email nbbassin@gmail.com. Thanks again, Fish Bum Outfitters, Carrot Sticks, Southern Yankee Baits, War Dog Lures, Northern Michigan Outfitters, Hooked on Canadian Angling, and my wife and my son. Set the hook, keep those lines tight.